never imagined that a simple weekend alone in my own home would turn into a nightmare. My parents decided to take a last-minute trip, leaving me with our old Victorian house and the promise of solitude. But little did I know that the house's dark secrets were about to reveal themselves, unraveling my sense of safety within its walls. As the night fell and the house settled into an eerie stillness, I tried to brush off the unease creeping into my thoughts. I distracted myself with a book, finding solace in the familiar words. However, each time I turned a page, a faint whisper tickled my ear, just loud enough to make me question whether I had truly heard it or if it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. Suddenly, the whispers ceased, replaced by an unsettling silence that hung heavily in the air. Trying to shake off the unease, I turned my attention back to my book, only to be interrupted by a scratching sound coming from downstairs. My heart pounded against my chest as I tiptoed toward the stairs, following the sound down to the first floor. The moonlight streamed through the stained glass windows, casting eerie patterns on the floor. I held my breath, straining my ears to pinpoint the source of the noise. It seemed to be coming from the basement. Slowly, I descended the creaky steps, the darkness seemingly growing thicker with each step. Reaching the bottom, I flicked on the basement light, illuminating the room with a weak yellow glow. Anxiety crawled up my spine as my eyes scanned the room, but there was no sign of anything out of the ordinary. Yet the scratching sound persisted, echoing ominously against the damp walls. Summoning my courage, I followed the sound, leading me deeper into the basement. That's when I noticed a small door tucked away in the corner, almost hidden behind old crates and forgotten memories. The scratching grew more frantic, drawing me towards it like a moth to a flame. Hesitant, I reached for the doorknob, my fingers trembling with a mix of fear and curiosity. With a deep breath, I turned it slowly, revealing a narrow passage beyond. A chilling draft blew through, sending a shiver down my spine. Heart racing, I stepped into the unknown. The passage was narrow and claustrophobic, the cold stone walls seemingly closing in around me. The scratching sounds grew louder, echoing through the confined space. Panic threatened to overwhelm me, but I had to push forward, driven by an inexplicable compulsion. After what felt like an eternity, I emerged into a hidden chamber, bathed in a dim, flickering light. My eyes widened in disbelief as I took in the sinister sight before me. The room was filled with cages, each occupied by a different creature, a twisted menagerie of nightmares. My heart sank at the horrifying realization that these creatures were not animals but people. I stumbled backward, trying to make sense of the grotesque scene and struggling to suppress my rising terror. The whispers returned, filling the chamber with their haunting chorus. The prisoners' eyes pleaded for rescue, their voices blending in a desperate plea for freedom. Fighting back tears, I searched the room for a way to release them, but every attempt proved futile. The door from which I entered had vanished, leaving me trapped with the tormented souls. Panic overwhelmed me, my mind screaming for an escape that seemed impossible. Hours passed, days maybe, as I withered under the weight of despair. The whispers grew louder, tormenting my sanity. I could no longer bear their pleas for help, their anguished cries reverberating in my ears. I longed for silence, for a respite from this living nightmare. Then, just as hope flickered to the edge of extinction, a loud crash broke through the chaos. Startled, I turned to see a figure standing in the doorway. Relief washed over me as my savior rushed to free the captives. With a newfound strength, I joined in the effort, until finally the last cage door swung open. In a flood of gratitude, the liberated souls embraced their newfound freedom, disappearing into the shadows. The room grew quiet, and I was left alone among the remnants of their captivity. Exhausted but grateful, I made my way back to the surface, the weight of the past few days heavy on my shoulders. My life returned to normal after that harrowing experience, but the events of that weekend have forever marked me. The horrors that unfolded within my own home shattered my sense of security, reminding me that darkness can lurk even in the most familiar places. And I'll forever be haunted by the silent roommate who shared my house, whispering secrets and revealing the depths of human suffering. As I walked into my empty house, a sense of unease washed over me. The creaking wooden floors seemed louder than usual, and the flickering lights cast eerie shadows on the walls. My parents had gone away for the weekend, leaving me alone in this old house nestled in the heart of the countryside. It was the perfect setting for a horror movie, but little did I know that the horrors would soon become all too real. The first night alone began innocently enough, as I settled down on the couch to watch a movie. The rain outside intensified, drumming against the windows with relentless force. As the movie played, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. With each suspenseful moment, the tension in the room grew, and I found myself glancing over my shoulder, expecting to see someone standing there. Unable to ignore the eerie sensations, I decided to explore the house, hoping to dispel the growing unease. As I ventured into the dimly lit hallway, the flickering lights cast shifting shadows that danced ominously along the walls. Goosebumps prickled my skin as whispers seemed to float through the air, faint but unmistakable. I strained my ears, trying to decipher the words, but they were too indistinct to understand. Pushing aside my fear, I explored the rooms one by one. The dining room felt heavy with an oppressive silence, and a cold breeze brushed against my face, causing the hair on the back of my neck to stand on end. The kitchen was no different, with utensils clattering together in a disconcerting symphony. But it was the basement that sent shivers down my spine. Descending the creaking stairs, I found myself in a dank, musty space. The smell of decay lingered in the air, and the low hum of a flickering light bulb added to the unsettling atmosphere. In the corner, I noticed an old Victorian-style dollhouse covered in dust and cobwebs. Its miniature windows stared back at me like endless voids, giving rise to a surge of inexplicable dread. I hurriedly retreated from the basement, unable to shake off the feeling of being pursued. Back upstairs, the whispers seemed to grow louder, their insidious voices echoing through the house. Trembling, I locked myself in my room, seeking refuge from the encroaching darkness. But the solitude of my room offered no solace. As midnight approached, a chilling wind howled outside, rattling the window panes with a sinister rhythm. Shadows danced on my bedroom walls, twisting and contorting into grotesque forms that seemed to watch my every move. The whispers became more distinct, and this time I could make out fragmented sentences, spoken in hushed voices. "I'm here. Don't be afraid. Join us." The words hung heavily in the air, suffocating me with their malevolence. Panic surged through my veins, and I realized I was not alone in this house. Something unseen, something sinister was lurking within these walls. Frantically, I searched for a means of escape, but as I reached for the doorknob, it refused to turn. A wave of terror washed over me as panic set in. The room seemed to close in, becoming suffocatingly small, and I gasped for breath. Time lost its meaning as I desperately tried to find a way out. The whispers grew louder, reverberating through the house with an intensity that was almost palpable. They clawed at my sanity, taunting me, driving me closer to the edge of madness. In a final act of desperation, I smashed open the window, shards of glass flying in all directions. The cool night air rushed in, bringing with it a sense of liberation. I climbed out onto the roof, my heart pounding in my chest, and took one last look at the house that had become my prison. As I turned to flee, a figure materialized in front of me, a specter cloaked in darkness. His voice, laced with malice, filled the air. "You can't run. You belong here now." A scream tore from my throat as I backed away, stumbling on the wet tiles. But it was too late. The figure lunged at me, and everything dissolved into darkness. When I awoke, I found myself alone in the safety of my room. It was morning, and the sun chased away the remnants of the nightmare that had plagued me. Was it all truly a dream, or had I narrowly escaped the clutches of a malevolent force that resided within those walls? To this day, I can't be sure. But one thing is certain, I will never forget the whispers in the night, haunting echoes that remind me of the horrors that can lurk when we are home alone. It was a cold winter's night, and I found myself alone in an old house nestled deep within the woods. My parents had left for a weekend getaway, leaving me in charge of the house. As darkness enveloped the surroundings, an eerie stillness settled upon the old walls. I tried to shake off the feeling of unease, reminding myself that it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. I decided to distract myself by watching a movie, hoping to drown out the silence that seemed to grow with each passing minute. As I settled on the couch, I noticed a peculiar painting on the wall, an ancient family portrait that had belonged to the previous owners. The eyes of the painted figures seemed to follow me, their expressions filled with sorrow and longing. It sent chills down my spine, but I dismissed it as mere paranoia. As the movie played on, strange noises began to echo through the house. Soft whispers and distant creaks permeated the air, making my heart race. I tried to convince myself that it was just the wind or the settling of an old house, but deep down, I knew something was amiss. With every whispered word, my sense of unease grew stronger. I decided to venture upstairs to investigate the source of the disturbing noises. Upon reaching the top of the staircase, the dim hallway lights seemed to flicker ominously, casting long shadows on the walls. I moved cautiously, my footsteps echoing through the corridor like a heartbeat in the silent void. The atmosphere became colder, and an icy breath seemed to brush against my cheek, sending shivers down my spine. As I passed each closed door, I couldn't help but feel someone or something watching me from within. Uncomfortable, I tried to quicken my pace, but something seemed to hold me back, as if invisible hands were tugging at my clothes. Fear gnawed at my insides, but I didn't dare turn back now. Reaching my parents' bedroom, I hesitated before slowly opening the door. The room appeared untouched, yet a chilling gust of wind rattled the windows, causing them to tremble in their frames. Amidst the darkness, my eyes caught a glimpse of a faded photograph on the dresser, a picture of the previous owners, vanishing under mysterious circumstances. Their eyes held the same sorrow and longing as the figures in the painting downstairs. A sudden crash from downstairs snapped me out of my thoughts, and my heart raced even faster. Panic welled up inside me, but I gathered my courage and made my way back down, determined to confront whatever may be lurking within the house. The living room was bathed in an unsettling silence when I entered, but then I heard it, a soft, sinister laughter that seemed to reverberate through the walls. A chill ran down my spine, and I realized I was no longer alone. Shadows danced erratically across the room, shifting and contorting into unfamiliar shapes. Fear gripped me, my mind struggling to comprehend the horrors unfolding before my eyes. Whispers grew louder, echoing from every corner, as if mocking my feeble attempts to escape. I stumbled backward, desperate to find a way out, but as I fumbled for the front door, it slammed shut with an almost malicious force, trapping me inside the nightmare. In a last-ditch effort, I rushed towards the phone, hoping to call for help. But as I picked up the receiver, an icy hand brushed against mine, chilling me to the core. The line was dead, further emphasizing my isolation and despair. At that moment, a voice filled the air, the words dripping with malevolence. "You shall never leave this place. You belong to us now." The sound seemed to come from all directions, imprisoning me within its terrifying presence. Darkness consumed me, and I surrendered to the horror that awaited. And so, dear friend, let this story be a cautionary tale. Should you ever find yourself home alone in an old house, be vigilant of the shadows that lurk. For once they have claimed you, escape may become an unimaginable feat.